My sisters and I would go to the library and come out with huge piles of books. And I remember coming across a list of books called Africa's Best 100 Books. And I gave myself a challenge that I would read as many of those books on this list as I could. So they were all the writers like Bessie Head, Amartedu, Chinua Achebe, Wole Soyinka. I really enjoyed reading those classic African writing. A lot of that, though, was mostly post-colonial writing, and the stories about African independence and the struggle is very, very different from the kind of stories that the younger writers are writing now. Recently, I've really been fascinated by writers like Chimamanda Adichie, Igoni Barrett, Aounte Selassie, Aisha Attar. There's such a crop of new writers that I think it's really important that me as an African, and especially as an African woman, would like to read. I started AkooBooks Audio because my mother went blind about 10 years ago. My mother is a writer and a passionate lover of books. And as she was losing her sight and not being able to read, I was thinking about how on earth are we going to get her books. Now, back about 10 years ago, there were books recorded on cassette tapes, and you'll see that in my mother's collection. We started buying her audiobooks on tape. And then it moved from tape to DVD, and then now it's, of course, all books are available electronically. African writers were not being featured in audiobook format. Reason being, most of these books are recorded and read by by American and European actors and actresses. And so, of course, they had difficulty with material coming from Africa, stories, names, places, settings. And so that told me that there was an opportunity there to provide books that were read and interpreted and presented by Africans so that Africans could enjoy them. So we felt that, or my panel session felt that digital is here to stay in Africa. A lot of young people today, more than 500 million people, are using mobile phone devices and are used to getting their information, whether it's news, pictures, WhatsApp, whatever, they're used to getting them on mobile phones. And so we need to recognize that and start adapting our material so that it meets their needs. The benefits of listening to audio help with memory retention. Also, for those who are not good visual learners, listening to audiobooks can help you to understand how a book was expressed, to help you to understand the language and the way, the intentions of the writer. We're looking at how we can create an adaptation, once we have an English version of the book, to create an adaptation straight in Ghanaian language. So we don't necessarily have to go from English to translation into a local language and then to have it read out and interpreted. So we have, for example, we have Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart in English. If we had that, instead of having it translated into Fanti or Ga, we're experimenting with going straight from an adaptation, almost like an interpretation.
I happened to become a teacher when I was older. And the way I had the stories and so on when I was a child, and that fostered my love for reading. I realized that once the child can read and have a love for books, half the education problem is solved. So I decided when I retire, I will write children's books. Unfortunately, by the time I retire, I have developed glaucoma, so I couldn't do much. I got used to the idea, and it didn't worry me. And I happened to have a brother-in-law who was a professor of library studies in this, and he introduced me to cassette audiobooks in the uh, 70s. Then they were not very popular, but they were coming. Introduced me to, and I got onto it. And then when CD books came in, I happened to have children who were interested in books too, and they all developed the love for books, and so they helped me. They wanted to help me a lot. They bought me the CD players, Walkman, and the audiobooks, CDs, and so on. And now they even giving me iPod, so they download stories from the net for me. So I never lack any reading material. I'm so very happy because I know people who are like me, who are readers, who are in my situation, will appreciate what she is doing. And I wish this thing, enterprise, will really prove to be useful to a lot of people.
Can I smoke too?
No, you can't.
Why not?
Because I don't want my wife smoking.
I'm not your wife yet.
Is that what it is today? Hmm? You're not my wife, huh?
It's not that. I just don't understand why you can do some things and I can't just because I'm a girl, a woman.
Well, I said I don't want my wife smoking. And nothing about women in general.
Wife, woman, you meant it as the same thing.
Women.
And you let that affect your imagination, it will change the tone of your voice.
Okay.
So,
3, 2, 1, go.
For now, you relish scratching the silver back of the 4 calling cards you just paid for, with a nickel out of your $1.37 in change.
my mistake was not waiting for instructions from the other side. Without clearance, I shot up into the night sky, my thick black hair flapping against my face.